Alright, UFC 299. I know I'm a bit late to it, but I'm going to start off with MVP against Kevin Holland. I've done a breakdown on the other two, I'll put a card up there. And first of all, what I want to say is, I stand by this. Kevin Holland is a massive waste of talent. How can you be built like that with a long reach, you're tall, you have, I'm not going to say good wrestling because where was it? He doesn't really have good setup, so he struggles to get the takedowns. And MVP, he put in a very good performance in a fight that it didn't deliver to how good I thought it could have been. But I'm blaming Holland for that because MVP made him silly. And we need more fighters like this with good personalities. And I know it don't mean everything, but he's a good addition to the weight class. And for the people saying that he should fight Wonderboy Thompson, I agree with him. I don't think that fight would be as good as you think. Like with Francis Ngannou when he fought Derek Lewis, it under-delivered. Like, you've got two powerful punchers, they both respect each other a bit too much, and they're too scared to commit. I think it'd be different with Wonderboy and MVP because it would be a fight where they've both got kind of like correlating styles, the bouncing on the toes, staying on the back foot out of range. And when you've got two fighters who like to counter with their kickboxing, you're going to create a fight where it's a point kickboxing match. And if you've done point kickboxing, it's a lot of you touch them, stop, start. It won't be what you're probably thinking where it will be they're both throwing loads of like spinning wheel kicks, catching each other and like blitzing in at each other and just like throwing loads of combinations. That won't happen at all. So if you want to see a more interesting fight, I think you've got to give him a better fighter than Kevin Holland. You've got to look at either a Jeff Neal, which would be a good fight because Jeff Neal has struggled to deal with the karate of Wonderboy and the karate and kickboxing of Ian Garry. So I think a fight like that would be hard for him. Well, not hard. I think that would be an interesting matchup. So I'm not going to say it would be easy because one thing about Jeff Neal is he doesn't really cut off the cage well. He like walks you down. And when you come up against a guy with good footwork, that's quite easy to deal with because you can just keep moving in different directions, bouncing on the toes and catch Jeff Neal pretty much flat-footed and just work low kicks. But Kevin Holland, that performance, I'm sorry, it just was like horrific to watch. There was a meta to beat him. Eliminate the legs, leg kick him, make him more stationary, and then once you've done that, look to close the distance, maybe with a feint, not just a lunge in with that right hand. Because if you jump in like that with the right hand, you're not going to generate as much power because he's trying to like loop it and close so much like distance from far out. And it makes me feel stupid for thinking that because really, Kevin Holland should have been able to get him down and hold him down, but he couldn't. And the reason he couldn't do it is when he got him down, he looked to be all offense. He wasn't looking to like maintain positions and stuff. So you actually see him on the ground, looked like he was going to get him like an arm triangle. But then at the time I was annoyed because I thought Kevin Holland for a moment broke the choke to throw loads of elbows. I don't think he did. I think MVP's defense was better and I did want him to win, but it just seemed stupid for a guy like Holland to let go of the choke. That's how I was thinking at the time until I watched it back. And MVP's takedown defense looked quite decent. It didn't in that fight with Logan Storley when he was able to hold him down and stuff. But in a fight here, it looked way better. And remember, those spinning no-look elbows were something else. Like Kevin Holland would just lunge in and he made the read. If he lunges in, let me just turn my elbow and look away. And because he keeps jumping into range, the impact will be heavier. Because if you jump into someone throwing an elbow, you're going to get knocked out, really. Look at Molly McCann against Luana Carolina. I know it was like a spinning elbow, but it's like people who walk into these shots, you've got a high chance of getting knocked down. And he's got a good chin on him. But honestly, for Kevin Holland's build, the attributes he's got, very underperforming fighter. And it's all down to fight IQ. And he did a Chris Curtis where he got a bit annoyed with how MVP was taunting and he was like on the back foot, not looking to like try and have like a scrap like he did with Mike Perry. You don't need to do that. And I hate when fighters complain about that type of stuff because at the end of the day, you've got to find a way how to close the distance. If they're not doing it, you find a way instead of sitting there complaining, thinking that he's going to go up to you and start trying to trade toe to toe. It's just not going to happen. So MVP made a good performance. So MVP had a good performance, but I don't think the fight was as good as it could have been. And that's why I think if we can look at a Jeff Neal a guy who's going to have better setups, be more intelligent. Even though he struggles to cut off the cage, he won't jump in with that right hand and leave his chin open. Or like an Garry. Garry, same thing like Wonderboy. It could be like a point fighting match. But I think because of the boxing of Garry, I think he'll look to be more aggressive in that type of fight. And he might even mix up a bit of the clinch. That's what he likes to do near the end of the rounds and stuff. So I think they're the two. But the Wonderboy, he's friends with him. I don't think that's actually a good fight to make. It should be on paper. But because of all those factors, I think it would be underwhelming for as good as it would seem to be. Right, I know you might think this is irrelevant, but I've got to talk about it. Jack Della Maddalena against Gilbert Burns. Very good win by Jack Della Maddalena. We all know he wants to fight Shavkat next, which is great. But it was the scoring. I couldn't believe it when I was watching it live. How could all of the judges have Gilbert Burns up 2 rounds? Well, not all of them. Sal D'Amato didn't, which I'm surprised about. Sometimes his scorecards can be confusing and just not make any sense. But it was like Gilbert Burns in this fight. He was getting beaten up for the majority of it, but then would just shoot in for the legs, like Conor McGregor against Nate Diaz, and just hug like he's Marab, and not land anything significant. He did more damage with his striking on the feet than when he brought Jack Della Maddalena down, because when he would get him down, he wasn't able to secure like a tight submission. You got a body triangle, but Jack Della Maddalena can survive. Gilbert Burns' highlight of the fight was landing like an overhand that caught him near like the corner of the forehead, and with like an elbow that caused like some redness on the forehead. Apart from that, I think Jack Della Maddalena does small things that the judges weren't noticing, like popping in with the jab and then coming down low to the body and hooking him. So I can kind of see why some people would say the first round, because striking stats, it was almost even, but I still would have went for Jack Della Maddalena purely off the damaging part. Like, we have to remember, it's going to be the damaging shots first of all. So if you want to go with Gilbert Burns round 2, I wouldn't, but I can see why people would. And I know it sounds stupid. You might think, how could you have him up 2 rounds? Because of damage. If you just hug someone, we've seen it multiple times. If you hug them, and that's all you do, and you land one good overhand right that doesn't even rock him, and you land one good elbow that causes bruising but doesn't even rock him, when you have Jack Della Maddalena literally hitting him with jabs and hooks, and you're seeing Gilbert Burns, I know a lot of you like him, like running away at times, it looks like, turning his back away because he doesn't like it, like he's feeling the power of Jack Della Maddalena. I can't see how he won them 2 rounds. And like I said before, I can see why you would give him the first round. I can see it. But with my scoring, if both of the striking is even, who landed more of the significant strikes in the first one? I've got to go with Maddalena. And in the second, even though I think Maddalena won, I can still see the argument for Gilbert Burns in round 2, because he did land that big overhand right and an elbow. But it's not really a good striking game plan against Maddalena, because striking defense is not good. He don't really move his head off the centre line when he throws punches. He hasn't really got composure when he's throwing, so he's a bit wild and leaves his chin open to the jab, which he got caught with. And then regarding like the finish at the end, that was some high IQ thing. The fact that Gilbert Burns was like trying to force that submission makes me believe he was struggling and he really wanted to get him out of there just in case the judges maybe give it to him, but they probably weren't going to give it to JDM. And then he gets that massive scramble. And then as he builds his way back up to the feet, he knows that Gilbert Burns is just constantly trying to be like a Dagestani fighter, throws that knee, and as he hits the floor, I'm like, the fight's over. Well, not according to the referee, because right, this is where the problem is. It reminds me of Bobby Green against Jailton Turner. All over again. The guy's being hit with like ground and pound elbows. You've just seen the brutal knee. You can hear the crowd getting all excited because they can see how powerful that knee is. At the point where he's been hit with that massive knee and he goes down, you need to be looking at stopping that fight very soon. And as soon as he lands the elbows and you're seeing that Burns isn't even like intelligently defending himself, as the rules say, and not turning to like create a scramble and grab the leg or anything, I'm thinking, what is the referee doing? Has he got like a bet on it to go to a distance? I don't know, because it was like, there's no way watching that you think that was a good stoppage. That was horrific. Because you can see that brutal knee, and we know Burns has not got the greatest chin as it is, but it was the fact that he had to hit him numerous times, still didn't move, referee still not jumping on him, even more, still not jumping on him. Then he goes to stop it. And he took so much damage, Burns couldn't even get up off the floor after. That's how much damage that this referee had caused, because he couldn't stop the fight earlier. And I just don't understand why he didn't. But anyways, regarding the scoring, I don't think Burns was winning. I think he was on the verge of winning that third round because JDM couldn't do anything at all. Even though he outstriked him, and that was probably because of the damage at the ends, which is making the significant strikes go up. But Burns actually landed no strikes in that third round, and that's weird to think about, like, considering he just held him. But that's what happened, and I'm sorry, you might disagree. I think JDM was winning that fight, even though you could have given Burns the first or the second round. The scoring on this fight was weird. It depends how you're thinking about damage, or are you thinking about the control time. And remember, you have to do damage with the control time to get any significant points off it. So yeah. Right, Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. He was actually injured. I believe it was a groin injury, and then in the fight he gets injured, I believe with his knee or something. And again, same issue with Petr Yan. I was scared. In that first round, I was like, he might actually lose this, because he never learns. He's a great fighter and all, but he will always give away that first round. Like, if there was a thing where you could predict who's going to win the first round, always bet against Petr Yan first round, because he will never finish a guy in the first round anymore. Because we all know what he does. He always sits there, like, measuring the distance, trying to establish, like, what his opponent's trying to do, and then let his opponent sometimes get a bit tired, or let them do what they want to do in the first round, and then step up the volume in the second, and then finish off strong in the third. And in the first round, I was very worried, because he was getting hit with that left hook. And that was probably because he was measuring the distance, keeping that hand away from him. That lead hook of Song Yadong is always going to be there. But what also seems surprising is Song Yadong going for the takedown. But Petr Yan, I don't know how to describe a guy like him's takedown defense, because it's like, what word would I use? Very creative. Because you'll notice that it's not any old normal scramble. It looks like he's kind of doing like this breakdance type of scramble where he's jumping out. Like, if you see him on Instagram or whatever, you're seeing him doing like these aerial flips and doing all of this athletic things really fast. He's a very fast twitch, explosive fighter. But Song Yadong, same thing. Very fast twitch, explosive striker with very good takedown defense. And he did show decent takedown defense. And Petr Yan, though, when he can get a position on the ground, is quite well when he's in the guard, like, to do damage. He's one of them fighters where he won't just lie on top of you and hold you. He will actually do damage, and he did. Like, it looks weird when you see a fighter whose eyes, like, both of the eyelids are cut. And he was able to do it with these, like, short elbows. And it was the intelligent things he did on the feet by, like, dropping down low as a level. I know Song Yadong was trying to do this to kind of, like, make him fear the takedown. But Petr Yan was doing this and then coming up with, like, left hooks as well. It was kind of like mimicking what Song Yadong would do at times. And I think that kind of threw Song Yadong off, plus him getting tired, because when you fight Yan, you're always going to fight at a high pace. Look at Sanhagen Yan. You are fighting at a high pace all the time. And there are body shots as well by Petr Yan. It's not like Song Yadong where he can, but it's a majority of headshots, and they're always like looking for hooks and an occasional leg kick. He doesn't really throw a lot of body shots when you think of Song Yadong, but he likes to wrestle more. But I think this fight here, it was an entertaining fight. It was competitive, but Yan just beat him. And it just shows you that Song Yadong has got, believe it or not, future championship material. I think, even against a guy like Aljamain, that is a dangerous fight. Even back in the day, it is. It's just one of the matchups, even though he's not at that ranking which Aljamain was at, he would be a horrible matchup because he can stop takedowns, he's got elite takedown defense, and he has, like, very strong levels of power with fast striking. Aljamain don't like them type of guys at all. So that was a good fight. Curtis Blaydes versus Almeida. That fight there was the one that surprised me a lot. I was actually wrong, even though I picked it pretty much perfect, round 2 KO. I was wrong because I believed that Almeida, you can't just ragdoll a guy like Blaydes, who's way bigger than you. He's shown to have relatively good takedown defense, was a high-level wrestler back in the day. But he went out there the first round and absolutely ragdolled him. Blaydes weren't able to land a strike. It was just go in there with the double leg, and then do what Muhammad Mokaev does. Pick up the back, not suplex you, but lift you up in the air and slam you down onto like your knees. But because Blaydes was so big, he struggled to get like a very tight body triangle, because think about all that mass. Trying to get your legs and wrap it around a bigger guy was going to be very hard to do. And it was. So Jailton Almeida, I don't think he was looking to force a submission. I think he was looking to just maintain control and just beat him in a wrestling match. And for Blaydes, that don't look good. Think about it. Blaydes is a guy who is huge. How is Jailton Almeida, a guy who, in my opinion, should be fighting at light heavyweight, picking you up like that and ragdolling you? He did what he did to Volkov. What Curtis Blaydes did to Volkov, I mean. And I do believe, even though Jailton Almeida could find some good success in the division, I think he will struggle against guys with good takedown defense and can strike, because I don't know about the striking of Almeida. I really don't. He did lose to a guy called Bruno Aziz who fights on LFA, but that was back in the day. But his striking isn't something that I think was good. And I don't know what he was thinking in the second round. Like, he just came out and just went too low. Like, that level change was way too low, and he committed to it. He should have looked to like work into the clinch from the double leg instead of trying to force that, because all that allows Blaydes to do is just land those hammer fists down onto your head when you're shooting onto the leg. And unlike Pereira, he didn't do elbows, he just hammer fisted him away, and he can't take the punches. And that's what I think will happen when he fights the harder hitting guys. Like, Derek Lewis tried to do what Blaydes did, but he don't have the takedown defense to do it. And with Blaydes, even though he was getting ragdolled, he was getting back up to the feet over and over and over again. And I think that was a problem, because with Almeida, a lot of opponents who he gets down, they're not getting back up. Once they're down, that's it. They can't get back up. But Blaydes has got a very good ability of just, you can slam him down, but he's just going to keep getting back up. And that was causing him a problem. And it was like one of the most weirdest fights on the card to watch. It was entertaining, but it was just like, with the way it played out, the way that first round went, that was looking like Almeida's just going to go out there, marab him, and just win a decision, but he couldn't. So I think, honestly, move down to light heavyweight, and you can find so much success. Imagine a fight with Jailton Almeida and Alex Pereira. I know this might be another hot take here. Jailton Almeida would have a good chance of beating Alex Pereira. His wrestling is so dominant, and he's doing it to bigger guys than Alex Pereira. Yes, if he catches him, it'll be out. Like, if he can't get a takedown at any point, fight's over in the first round. But he can also do what we're talking about with Ankalaev on Alex Pereira by taking him down and making it a hard matchup. But the difference is, he doesn't waste any time on the feet like Ankalaev. Like, in a weird way, I'd be more confident in Almeida beating Pereira than Ankalaev, because he could get his legs chewed up, mess about on the feet for too long and get chinned. Whereas I believe Almeida's one of them fighters where he gets to work straight away. He doesn't waste any time messing about on the feet. He was looking for the takedown, and once he's got you, you struggle to like get him off you. Yeah, you can kind of build your way back up, but he was always maintaining control. He's got very good control time. Controlled him for, I believe, 4 minutes and 39, so... Oh no, that doesn't consider the first round, but probably the majority of the first round, because it will consider a bit of the second when he went for that like low single. But Curtis Blaydes, I want to see him fight Tom Aspinall. That rematch has got to happen if Aspinall can't get a fight. But no point waiting for Jones, and even if he loses, I want to see him fight Jones, because I know that would be unfair on Blaydes, you might think, but he is the interim, and I know interim can be a bit stupid, but I don't want Tom Aspinall to sit out there and just be inactive. He should fight Blaydes, and I would expect he could beat him, but it's still a hard matchup for him. But anyways, yeah, that was a weird fight. Mateusz Gamrot against Rafael dos Anjos. So what a start to that fight. Like, getting dropped that early. Imagine, this fight should have never happened. He should have really been fighting Makhachev when the pullout happened. And Superior probably wouldn't be champion right now, because that fight wouldn't have happened at that point. Maybe in the future he would have, because I always thought that he could beat Volk. It's just weird how all of this has happened. Like, why is he fighting? This is just the fight to get like a stat pad on your record. It was all predictable. It was going to be a decision. Ragdolling him by takedowns and cardio, and it happened. Not ragdoll, but just controlled him, because he did get dropped early. But the fight that also impressed me, and I know there's a lot, like you got your Carlo Phillips, Pedro Munoz, but I want to talk about this Michel Pereira and then the Robelis. But Michel Pereira, he's going to be a problem at middleweight. Like, I can't say if he's a guaranteed contender, because I don't know how his cardio could last in a 5-round fight. But with the way his career's going right now, we need to be looking at him fighting, like, I need to get the middleweight rankings up. I think a Chris Curtis would be a good fight. But I don't want to say Chabaralho. He needs to move up. He's fighting, like, way too many guys now. I want to push him up higher in the rankings with a fight. Or, what about Michel Pereira against a Roman Blaydes? That would also be a very interesting fight, because both of their cardio, it's kind of like weird, because Blaydes looked tired, but he could push through being tired. And I think Anthony Hernandez deserves like a higher ranked fight. I know you might think this is boring, but Anthony Hernandez, Jack Hermansson, I could always see that fight being made. Michel Pereira, the way he went out there, danced before, like I was thinking, oh my God, if you dance and lose it, how embarrassing would that be? But he goes out there, just one body shot, he hits so hard, so much better at middleweight. But it's always about, for me, the cardio. None of this like foolish dancing, jumping around in the cage anymore. I liked it, but it won't work against the top-ranked middleweights. I wouldn't throw him in with a Paul Craig because I think he'd knock him out in the first round. Anthony Hernandez would be... I know I said he should fight Jack Hermansson, but he needs to fight higher up now. So, Chris Curtis, Chabaralho, maybe even Ikram Alaskarov. That type of fight would be interesting. One of them fights I think we need to do, because Michel Oleksiejczuk's a hard guy to knock down. And he winded him with that body punch. I believe it was like to the solar plexus. And then after that, just rear naked chokes him. He just puts in... He makes good guys look bad. Like Andre Petroski is not bad. Flattens him. Runs through Jacek. He needs a high-ranked opponent. Robelis Despaigne. I don't know how to pronounce his name. That heavyweight guy. He will be a problem to a lot of the strikers. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he'll be good against the guys who can grapple, because we don't know that. Parisian couldn't even get close. You know a guy has serious levels of power when they're like dropping you whilst walking on the back foot, not like in a good posture, and he just taps him and he goes down. He's just added to the highlight reel of like under the first round knockouts. I don't know how long his fight time is, but it's definitely under 1 minute. It's probably under 30 seconds or just about 30 seconds, because he had that one like longer fight. I know he's a can, you might think. He's one of them heavyweights, but he actually can hug you. And he couldn't do it against him because he just hits you too hard. And I'm thinking with Robelis, because he's old, I want to throw him already right into the mix. Like, I know you might not want to see this already. It was his first debut fight. I'm thinking of a heavyweight who's not really going to wrestle and could put on an entertaining fight. So I did say I want to see Jairzinho Rozenstruik against Derek Lewis. I mean, Dana White, I wouldn't be surprised if he did it. He did it with Shamil Gaziev. If you're not going to do Derek Lewis Rozenstruik, do Robelis Derek Lewis. That would be an entertaining fight to watch, because it would be a stand-up battle. Robelis is the better striker, but Derek Lewis can put you out in seconds if you're not careful. So maybe Rozenstruik might want to fight the winner of Tai Tuivasa Tybura. Like, they're the type of fights I'm looking at. But I don't want him to like go through this route of fighting loads of unranked guys, because he's too old. He's 37, and I know you can last a bit longer. But I want to see him fight against, like, have a good matchup, because I don't think he'll become champion. I don't. I need to see how good his wrestling is first. And then after you give him, like, a Derek Lewis, now look at putting him against a grappler or something. You might want to do the alternative, put him against a grappler. But then if he loses that fight, he will not be given a fight against a ranked opponent. So that's why I'm saying do something like that. Try it out, because that would be interesting. Or if Justin Taffer wasn't booked, a fight with him would have been interesting as well. But yeah, 6'7", didn't last that long. So yeah, that's all I've got to really say about the card. So, and then lastly, Azir Almabaev, I just want to quickly say something about him. He's one of these flyweights who's going to go underneath the radar. His wrestling reminds me a bit like Ronnie Lawrence. People used to call Ronnie Lawrence Mini Khabib, but Azir Almabaev's takedowns are way better. Like low single, gets the opponent down. And one thing he has struggled with is control. But you can't deny his takedowns are very good. But his striking's a bit mid. Nothing special. He throws like these spinning back kicks and leaves himself open to be getting caught by a counter. But when we talk about him just taking your back, getting hooks in and just mugging you off on the ground pretty much. Brilliant. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.